And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, turning intent into execution. That's how ABSA are invested in Africa's energy future. 9 minutes after 6. Good evening. Welcome to the Friday edition of The Money Show. I'm Stephen Grootes. Astonishing to see more developments at SAA. So quickly do CEOs seem to leave. This is the fourth CEO, but now it seems Matsela Sashiba, we're told, has been placed on special leave. Very little information about why. We'll speak to Dr Guy Leitch about that in just a moment. But the problems must be structural at SAA. This keeps happening. There's something going on there. We've been talking a lot about artificial intelligence and financial services. In fact, we mentioned it while talking to Sim Chabalala at Standard Bank yesterday, the CEO there. We'll speak to the Commissioner at the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, Unathi Kamlana. He's got some very interesting thoughts on AI responsibility and what happens when things go badly wrong. You know how easy it is for that to happen. The price of water, I find it astonishing, this story. We'll speak to a water sommelier, I think I pronounced that correctly, in a little while. Nico Peters, he's the founder of the Fine Water Company. They're buying and selling bottles of water for 5,000 Rand. Just to be clear, this is per bottle of water, yes. yes, the stuff that comes out of a tap, that stuff. I find that really just astonishing. And then don't forget the Friday Biz Blitz as well. Looking forward to that just before 7 o'clock. You know how to get in touch with us. 011 883 0702 021 446 0567. And voice notes, of course, tonight on 072 702 1702.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
and DSTV channel 856.
A statement just 2 hours ago from SAA, the board now placing their acting CEO, Matsela Sashiba, on special leave. They say that's pending the outcome of an internal process. Remember the former CEO, Professor John Lamola, he resigned very suddenly in April. 3 members of the board went with him. There's been a long history of problems at the airline. Dr Guy Leitch is an aviation analyst. Guy, good evening. We have no clarity at all on what led to this, but when you consider Sashiba was appointed just 4 months ago, now there's an internal process, it does sound like something's gone very badly wrong.
Yeah, hi, Stephen, and nice to be with you as always. Well, I think that the bottom line ultimately here is that SAA never fails to disappoint. We held out so much hope for it, given its sort of clean balance, debt-free balance sheet after the whole drama of the business rescue process. And now we're back to the bad old days with rapid revolving doors on CEOs, bad accounting, showing unbelievable figures in the annual reports, and which ultimately show losses in 2024, 25, and I think they're going to be far worse in 26. So I think that this job is a proper hospital pass, and I think it is very worrying about the potential of SAA to be anything other than just a repeat of version 1.
A strange thing to this guy, and this is complete conjecture and speculation on my part, but I think it was 12 years ago, SAA was on the verge of signing a code-sharing agreement with Emirates. You may remember Dudu Myeni, the chair, stopped it at the last minute to SAA's great cost. 2 weeks ago, we spoke to Matsela Sashiba on The Money Show after they just signed a code-sharing agreement with Emirates. And in fact, I asked him if what happened 12 years ago had any role in negotiations, if it made it harder. He said he hadn't been aware that had happened. Surely it's not the same cause, is it?
That is an extraordinary comment from Mr. Sashebi, because as you rightly identified, it would have been a turning point in SAA. I think the problem was internal politics, in that the then acting CEO, Nico Bezuidenhout, had organized or had negotiated. Wasn't just a code share; it was a much deeper partnership. In fact, it was closer to the so-called strategic equity partnership kind of deal, and it was all set up for signing at the Paris Air Show. And then at the last moment, the CEO, the chairperson, Dudu Myeni, kiboshed it actually while they were all about to sign it. So it was an absolute turning point, and I think it showed that SAA had become a political pawn, and we can only hope the same is not happening again. Here we've seen a hospital pass appointment to a person who was obviously not qualified in terms of experience to run an airline, having had just about 18 months experience running air chefs. Apparently the bottom line on that was good, but maybe now the internal investigation is showing that it's not so good. And before that, Mr. Shishirbi had a very questionable experience or connection to Daybreak Farms, which was that chicken fiasco. So it seems like everyone's worst fears are actually coming to life.
Is this all about politics? I mean, is there something about SAA as a state-owned entity that attracts more trouble than some of the other state-owned entities? I mean, some of them attract a lot of trouble indeed. It's so often about governance. Could there be something about SAA that just makes it even worse?
Well, we hope not. There was the SAA has clearly stated its intention to not go back to the government for a handout, and that means that it has got to be run on at least sustainable, if not a profitable basis, and that means it can do with absolute minimal government interference. However, there have been worrying signs of government interference. The worst of those examples was when the board's recommendation that I think Mr. Alan Kululeka former of Kenyan Airways be appointed the CEO, and they were overruled by government, by then I suppose the Department of Transport, and Professor Lamada was appointed over the board's recommendation. There have also other questionable decisions. The airlines flying to Accra and Ghana, and that route is, from all appearances, extremely unprofitable. So again, it looks like they're flying to unprofitable routes. The airline has got a clearly stated development mandate. That means it is there to develop skills. It is there to develop air connectivity, hopefully bring business to South Africa, take South Africa to the world. And yet it remains hideously undercapitalized. It can't acquire new aircraft, new competitive aircraft. That means it can't compete, and we are just waiting. And another key point is that there have been very worrying signs of bailouts. There was a big question mark about a 1 billion rand share buyback by the state. There was a further bailout of 1 billion rand transferred, and it's worrying that pre-Aduda Mayoni, the airline was losing 1 billion rand a year. Now it still seems to be losing 1 billion rand a year.
Sure. Dr. Guy Leitch, thank you very much indeed, the aviation analyst. Well, not much to work with what's happening at SAA or why it's happening. What we do know is the same kind of thing keeps seeming to happen again and again. And when that happens, as you know, it's certainly structural, it would seem. 17 minutes after 6.
The Money Show. Explainer.
Across so many of our conversations on The Money Show, you'll hear questions about how AI is changing finance. I mean, last night you heard the Standard Bank CEO Sim Chabalala discussing how AI is changing his institution. Amid all of this, it's clear that across all of our financial institutions, artificial intelligence is becoming more involved in decisions, and decisions have consequences. Who gets a loan? Who doesn't? Where's money put? Why is it put there? You can imagine the potential for mistakes here. Trading is moving more and more quickly. AI can move money very, very quickly, and any mistakes could multiply exponentially. Well, someone who's been wrestling with all of this is, in fact, the chair of the of the FSCA, Unathi Kamlana, and he joins us now. Unathi, good evening, and thanks so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. I mean, you've been looking at this, and it's quite complicated. I mean, if there's a mistake or an event that creates huge problems, who's responsible? Would it be the institution, the software person, the AI model? How are you looking at this problem?
So the way that we are addressing and approaching the problem is that there must always be a human who is responsible either to deploy the technology or to sign off on its deployment. There must be a person who interacts with the regulator and is responsible for, therefore, regulatory outcomes. That's what we want to emphasize, that you cannot have a situation where even if you have outcomes which are not ideal, you can't blame the machine. You can't blame the technology that was deployed. There are people who made the call, and those people are the ones that we will hold responsible for the outcomes. That's basically the message.
Is it very different from the situation now? You might have a trader acting on behalf of one of the big financial institutions. They make decisions. We've seen this happen in the past where maybe that means the institution breaks the law or something. Think of the currency manipulation case that went on forever. Who is held responsible there? Is it the institution, the CEO, or the actual individual trader?
I think, correctly, it should always be who ultimately had the power to sign off on a transaction, right? So many institutions have got delegations of authority. And all delegations of authority make it very clear that I have delegated a responsibility to you does not absolve me from the fact that I am originally accountable and responsible for what happens with this delegation. And I think this is quite an important principle, Stephen, that senior executives of licensed institutions need to understand what it means to be appointed formally as they are, and to pass fit and proper assessments of a regulator, and then to be responsible on the day-to-day. Whether you have internal arrangements around who you delegate those functions to, that's for convenience, that's for efficiency internally, but you are ultimately responsible. If things go wrong, if the technology that's deployed, for example, has a bias in terms of what the outputs are, you have got to be able to explain how the technology operates, and you've got to be able to explain what the institution will do to correct outcomes that are not in line with the regulatory framework.
When things go wrong and someone's lost a fortune or committed an illegal act, I can imagine in an institution there can be a huge fight about who it was, and someone can say you didn't issue the instruction, or you did, or it was the software person who got it wrong, or the code just made a mistake, it wasn't foreseeable. Do you think institutions understand where responsibility ultimately lies?
I think many institutions do. I think that, of course, at the point where there is an issue, people will lawyer up and complicate the picture in terms of who you hold accountable. But the point that we are making in these kinds of communication is to say, actually, it's not complex at all. There are individuals who are responsible for outcomes of firms. They are either executive directors or non-executive directors, and there's established law about what their responsibilities are, and that's what we will stick with, regardless of what technology is deployed. The people who are charged with governance outcomes of firms, including firms that are licensed in the financial sector, continue to be responsible for outcomes of those financial institutions, regardless of whether what we're talking about is technology or other outcomes. In the same way that as they publish results and so on, performance of the organization, which includes areas where they would not necessarily have set foot themselves, but because they are responsible for the overall, they're able to take credit for what the performance is. If things go wrong around regulatory expectations, the same people must be responsible for the outcomes.
At this point,
it seems to us it makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, from what you can see now, is there a need to update the way you regulate markets and products? I mean, you could allow precedent from previous decisions about how individuals must bear responsibility to just sort of follow, and I imagine that could work. But do you think regulations need updating to take account of AI's impact on financial services?
No, certainly. The point that we made during the lecture that we gave recently at UCT is that we have to make sure that our regulatory frameworks keep up with the pace of change. But we also go a step further, which is that we know that it's difficult for them to keep pace. So therefore, we must go into a space which is a space of principles rather than rules, because principles tend to be relevant for much longer than rules would be relevant. And as we learn, we update the regulatory framework, but our experience is that just is reactionary, responsive, rather than keeping pace. So principles are the instrument that we think is better to have in the formal regulatory framework, so that you're not left behind. And principles talk to not just a specific technology or innovation, they just talk to expectations in terms of what is expected of a licensed entity, how they treat their customers, what customers are entitled to in terms of information, recourse mechanisms, etc. And they are designed also around being proportional to the size, the nature, the complexity of the business model of an institution. So that's how we think about what one should do as far as the regulatory framework is concerned.
Unathi Kamlana, the Chair of the Financial Sector Conduct Authority. I really appreciate your time tonight. Thank you on The Money Show.
The Money Show.
The markets.
Zwelakhe Mguni is the Chief Investment Officer at Benguela Global Fund Managers. Good evening, Zwelakhe. Exxaro, their results, their headline earnings are going to be lower. Their share price was lower as a result. At a time when lots of energy shares have kind of been doing all right. They're battling a little bit.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. I think the main thing is their associate or the divisions that the two main associates, Sishen Iron Ore Company, which is Kumba, and Black Mountain. Those are the ones that actually had declines in performance. But actually, if you look at the Exxaro numbers, I mean, the first half production showed improvement of about 10%. They seem to be making progress on the turnaround at Lupan and also Belfast. But I think at an EBITDA level, they were flat. The pressure came through the associates. So I don't think it's a real pressure that's operational. It's more the associates that put them down.
It's also all about coal prices, really, for them, isn't it? And they can't control that. It
is indeed. But I thought production did actually give them a bit of a protection to that extent. But definitely the oil price was a factor.
Stadio, the education group, I mean, we know the market for private education is huge, although people who can afford it are battling maybe not just a little bit, quite a lot, and yet their earnings are quite significantly higher.
No, certainly the core headline earnings are between 15 and 22% higher. And I think the key driver this round looks like it's been the contact learning. You remember that during the COVID period, the distance learning was doing very well. It was the one that was getting the business, and now we are seeing more performance on the contact learning. So it is a good result. It's a good positive outcome for Stadio.
Gold's been interesting. I mean, consistently higher, sort of around $4,300. Really, lots of things have been happening around it. It does seem to me, looking back now, that the key sort of factor is the US Fed and interest rates there. People kind of know where they're going to be with interest rates for a little while, and it seems, am I right, gold seems to be benefiting a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the short term is definitely the interest rates have been beneficial. But if you look at the long-term real rates, so the tips, you can see that the real rates have been increasing on a 5 and 10 year in the US. So that probably would keep the upside on gold. I think the shorter term geopolitics and the central bank buying are the ones that are driving the gold price. We are seeing it now firmly above $4,300. So it seems to be holding up very well there, but we're still far away from the 5,300 we saw in Feb.
So we're far away, but I mean, the longer it stays just about 4,000, the better for South Africa. And this now looks like quite a sustained kind of level. I mean, we can't make predictions on gold prices, sure, but it would seem to me that all of this is quite beneficial over the longer term because it's now been at this level for quite a while and presumably you could sustain it.
Indeed. If you look at all the effects from last year, it was perfectly correlated to the Rand gold price. So we have benefited and will continue to benefit at this current level. But I think we are starting to see a bit of a broadening of the performance on the JSE, and we are seeing other sectors starting to come through. I think in the short term, we'll continue to benefit, but I think longer term, we may see a bit of broader market performance. If we are able to deliver the growth, I think the financials could be an area that could deliver better numbers going forward.
Zwelakhe, thanks so much. Zwelakhe Mguni is the Chief Investment Officer at Benguela Global Fund Managers. Talking of gold and value, we'll be talking about 5,000 Rand bottles of water in about 10 minutes. You with the Money Show, just gone 6:30.
WhatsApp Stephen
On 072
702.
1702.
There was a lively conversation on Cape Talk's Drive Show with John Matham this afternoon about Uber and the fact that the car service UberX is being discontinued at the end of the month. So from the 1st of September, you'd no longer be able to order an UberX. You'd be able to order other Ubers of different kinds. And the thing that surprised me slightly was that the motorbike service, which they've been trialing in parts of Joburg, seems to also be coming to an end. I'm not sure there'll be another one like it. The thing that I sort of felt important was that you need proper segmentation in what you offer. In other words, if you're Uber, you need to do the Uber Black for rich people, and you need to do something for people to make it very, very affordable. You go to lots of other places, think India, think Rwanda, you will have taxi services that are on motorbikes, and it seems to me that people will absolutely want to do that. I don't know if I would do it now because I'm too scared of my wife, but I would certainly have done it when I was younger. I would probably try and dissuade my children to use it, but, that's my choice. Other people will have different choices. Tolakele, good afternoon. You ever been on the back of an Uber bike?
I will absolutely not do it. I'm so sorry. I already watch how they move when they are doing the deliveries. Imagine if I was the package.
Wow. No.
Thank you.
Big helmets? Colourful ones?
It still wouldn't make me feel safe. No. It's just too wild on the roads.
I mean, I'm fascinated because so many people, surely, if you're a student, and you're on a limited budget and you've got to go and do whatever, isn't that the way to travel? I wonder what that's like. So UberX, the car service, not going to be running from the end of the month, and neither will the motorbike service. 19 minutes now to 7.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
16 minutes to 7 the time. So how much would you pay for a bottle of something? The most expensive bottle of anything that you've ever bought. And I know some people who will, maybe over Christmas, pay up to 5,000 Rand a bottle for whiskey. They're nice people, but they've never shared it with me. I know it happens. Some people prefer a old-fashioned bottle of wine or maybe champagne, something fizzy. Usually when you think of that kind of money for a bottle, you automatically think of something alcoholic. Strangely. It's interesting that we immediately go there, isn't it? And people will pay a fortune for it. I'm never really sure what they're paying for, if it's the experience or if it's something else. But no one, and I really do mean no one I know, would pay more than 100 Rand for a bottle of water. Would you? And yet, there's now an industry that's, dare I say, sprung up around people who'll pay an absolute fortune for what they call fine water. Someone who understands this industry, because I have to tell you I don't, is Nico Pieterse. He's a water sommelier and the founder of the Fine Water Company. Nico, good evening. So I'd heard that the business existed, the idea of fine water. I know virtually nothing about it. What makes some water, some hydrogen and oxygen, better than some other hydrogen and oxygen?
Hi, Stephen. Thank you so much for having me. Water's not just water, and water from all different places around the world has different taste. And some water are more expensive than others, and it's probably all about the minerals inside that water. So the more the minerals in the water, the stronger the taste of the water and the better the hydration you're going to get from the water. And the less strong the minerals, or the less the minerals,
the less strong the taste of the water and the less hydration you're going to get. And a lot of waters are you can just find water anywhere. And I say that tongue-in-cheek because only 1.2% of water on Earth is fresh water. And although we have a lot of water on Earth, where the water evaporates from the oceans, dams, rivers, and lakes, and it falls as rain, not all water is the same. And I think depending on what you're looking for in water, whether you're looking for hydration or whether you're looking for something really scarce, the price can differ. And it differs because of all the minerals inside the water, and also differs because of the availability of that water. So there's a lot that goes on.
Okay, I mean, when I talk to you on the radio, I always have this is sort of cycling bottle, really, of water. The water comes out of a tap. It's sort of Joburg's finest. Scientifically, what's different between the water in front of me and the water you're talking about? I mean, what sort of makes it so different?
Scientifically, it's important. Like tap water, Joburg's finest tap water, or Cape Town's finest tap water, contains two things. Now, we have to add chlorine to water. So chlorine will kill bacteria and kill algae, and you have to add that to tap water to kill the bacteria and to kill algae. So chlorine remains poisonous. If I say it kills things, they used it as a weapon in the First World War. They used it as a weapon in the Second World War. So that's something that's quite poisonous that's inside the water. And also it's a skin irritant, an ocular irritant, and a nasal irritant. And in my world as a sommelier, I don't only pair or drink water, I pair water with food or wine or whiskey or brandy. And depending on the taste of the water, I can make those things taste better. Now, tap water with its chlorine, it's going to be bad for your cup of coffee, and it's going to be bad to pair with wine, and it's not going to be a good water necessarily to drink for hydration, where a decent mineral water, where minerals gets measured in total dissolved solids or TDS, if you're cycling, will be a far better water for you than a normal tap water, because we need those minerals for hydration. And hydration doesn't just come in H2O, pure H2O. You need the minerals for hydration, and that's something that affects the taste of the water as well.
So I drink the stuff, it's got chlorine in it. I swim in the stuff, it's got chlorine in it. Seem to be fine, feel fine, works for me.
Yeah, I think drinking tap water, once you know a little bit more about water, tap water is the most processed water in the world. And I think the whole world is moving away from processed anything, processed food especially, and processed drinks. And the other thing that they add to tap water is fluoride. And fluoride they started adding to water in 1945 in America. And they did that because fluoride is good for your teeth. Now, they also did that not knowing that studies in 2023-24 will show that the higher the level of fluoride, the lower the IQ of the population around that municipality, and especially in children. So fluoride also is poisonous. Now that's something.
Nico, I don't know how far down that road. I think we can go. Let me put this to you another way, right? So if I buy a bottle of the water you're talking about, and I buy a bottle of what's marketed from one of the big brands as kind of natural spring water, so that's 20 Rand a bottle. How different are those two bottles of water?
Okay, so the minerals in water is measured in TDS, or total dissolved solids, as I said. Now, a mineral water may only be called a mineral water if the TDS is higher than 250 milligrams per liter. How we get to that TDS is we take a liter of water, we flash heat it to 180 degrees, and then the water will suddenly evaporate, and what's left over on the plate will be the minerals. We then weigh those minerals, and it's measured in TDS, and it's indicated as TDS in milligrams per liter. Now, a normal mineral water may not be called, or normal water in a bottle may not be called a mineral water if the TDS is lower than 250 milligrams a liter. If you go to a pharmacy and you buy a hydration powder that you can buy over the shelf, you get electrolytes. And electrolytes equals minerals equals salts. Now, we need those electrolytes for hydration. Inside one of those sachets, you'll get typically 1,300 milligrams of electrolytes, which will be 1,000 milligrams of sodium or 200 milligrams of magnesium, and then 100 milligrams of potassium. That's 1,300 milligrams of electrolytes. That's in one sachet of electrolyte powder. Now, I have a bottle of water in the tasting room that has 4,700 milligrams of electrolytes in one bottle of natural mineral water from a natural source, which will basically almost be 3 times as hydrating as a sachet of water, a sachet of electrolyte powder dissolved in a glass of water. So if you're looking for hydration, you look for electrolytes, and you can get more than a sachet of electrolytes in a bottle of natural mineral water, which is not processed.
That is very interesting. Okay.
And that it makes a big difference. I also have a bottle of water inside the tasting room that is naturally carbonated, which means that water, where we would normally, if we carbonate water, you add CO2 to water, and that then creates the bubbles inside that water. And I have a water inside the tasting room that has a natural carbonation from natural volcanic gases in the ground, which carbonates the water naturally underground. So if I have a glass and I scoop it up straight from where the source is, I have sparkling water in the glass, which makes it a really interesting bottle of water, naturally carbonated by Mother Nature. And depending on the region, we have different minerals. So that's basically called the terroir of the water, same as with grapes. And water has different tastes depending on the terroir or where the water comes from.
I do want to ask, when water like this is bottled, how is it processed at all? I mean, is it literally someone scoops the water out and puts it in a bottle and that's that? Or do they do something else to it?
No, it will go through a sediment filtration and maybe carbon filtration just to remove anything that might be in the water. Then it'll go through a UV filtration, which is a light that shines onto the water to kill any bacteria. And then it goes into the bottle. Now, it's not only the minerals in the water that matters, it's the nitrate in the water that matters. So nitrate is an indication of pollution at the source. So the higher the nitrate, the more polluted the source is, and also whether the water comes in a plastic bottle or a glass bottle, because water is a solvent, and the second it goes into a plastic bottle, it starts dissolving the bottle. And there's a lot of plastic. So your expiry date on the back of a plastic bottle of water is not necessarily for the water, it's for the bottle, because by that time the water's dissolved to many of the plastics inside that bottle, and if you open that and drink it.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna end this there. I don't buy that, I'm afraid. You're welcome to your own view, but I don't buy that. Nico Petersen, thank you for the time, founder of the Fine Water Company.
Stephen Grootes
Taking your calls
on 011-883-0702.
Okay, time for the Friday Biz Blitz. You know how it works. We give you a question. You call us. If you get it right, we move on to the next question. If you get it wrong, we move on to the next caller. 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567. That's how you play the game. Here we go. Which Uber car service will no longer be available from the 1st of September? Which car service by Uber is being discontinued from the end of the month? Easy one to start you off. 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by ABSA Corporate and Investment Banking, turning intent into execution. That's how ABSA are invested in Africa's energy future.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
First question, which Uber car service will no longer be available from the 1st of September? 883-0702 021-446-0567. We've got other questions about a utility, about SAA and CEOs. We've got questions to come as well about SADC. Lots of things to look forward to in the Friday Biz Blitz. Solomon on the line from Cosmo City. Solomon, hi. Okay, first question.
Stephen.
Yeah, do you know the answer? Which Uber car service is no longer going to be available?
It's Uber X, Stephen.
Solomon, I don't need to think about this one. Yes, it is indeed Uber X. Okay, you ready for the next question? Here we go. Which chairperson of a state-owned entity did the presidency publicly rebuke this week over comments they've made about the unbundling of that utility?
I'm going to try my luck. Is it SAA?
Oh, it's not SAA. I'm going to let you have another go, though. It's a utility. It's been in the news a lot lately, and particularly its chair. He's a former CEO at MTN South Africa, actually, now that I think about it. Come on, Solomon.
Yeah. Try to.
It's the utility we talk about all the time.
We talk about it all the time.
All the time.
Trying to think.
Oh, Solomon. Pressure's getting to you, I fear.
Yeah, there's too much pressure on me. So I'm going to let this one pass.
Okay. Solomon, thank you, though. Solomon on the line from Cosmo City. 011-883-0702 021-446-0567. Which state-owned entity chair did the presidency publicly rebuke this week over unbundling plans? That's our second question on the Friday Biz Blitz for you today. I thought it was a relatively easy question, I have to tell. Let's go to Dingaan. Dingaan, I think you're in Elberton. Hi, go for it.
So what's the question? The ESCOM chairperson, is that still the question?
That is still the question, and Dingaan, that is still the answer, yes. It is Mteto Nyati, the ESCOM chair. Okay, next question. Here we go. We do have an SAA question. After Zux Ramaisa resigned as the CEO of SAA in March 2020, how many CEOs has SAA had since then? Is it 2, is it 4, or is it 5?
2.
I'm sorry, Dingaan. Dingaan in Alberton. It's no. Let's try Amin in Pretoria. Amin, is it 2 CEOs, 4 CEOs, or 5 CEOs?
I think it's 5.
It's not, Amin. I think you must know the right answer. It's obviously 4. You with the Money Show at 7 o'clock.